This is Odin Knight from the show. I was on my way home from work when I heard something on the news, and there was a couple panelists talking about this where they were discussing the heroin epidemic and how all the people who are these unfortunate users of heroin are victims, and that there's not enough of this drug to be able to help revive people who have overdosed on them. And I'm not the first person to think this, let alone discuss this, and probably won't be the last. But I'm getting a bit sick and tired of hearing this same narrative over and over and over again, that all these heroin users are victims. They've been taken advantage of because they are suffering from pain and need something to be able to manage the pain, and that through whatever means some nefarious person is selling this stuff to them and they're using it, and they're all victims because of their current condition. And I'm thinking, where was this mentality 20 years ago and 30 years ago, where all of these people who got addicted to crack cocaine or PCP or whatever else that's out there that were in other communities, where was some sort of revival drug for them when they OD'd and they're about to die? Where's the dialogue about how to get people rehab and spend money on rehabbing them instead of just arresting them? Because you can't arrest their way out of this epidemic. What happened to that? Now, this is the narrative that's been not just this year or last year. You know, a couple of them have been going on, at least in this area. We're in Orange County, Florida. From 2015, they've been going at it with all guns blazing to deal with the dealers, to deal with the source of the problem, instead of blaming the victim and arresting the victims, you know, doing a blanket arrest on all victims. Here they even say that they're just going to go after some of the users. What's the criteria for some of the users? Why not go after all of them like you've done in the past with all of the crack dealers and all of the crack users and all of the cocaine users and all those who were possessed, have possession of them? What about that? Or have we finally learned a lesson from 20 years ago that's been continuing up until today, where we're treating people who are addicted to crack or meth as thugs and criminals, but people who are addicted to heroin are victims of some bad situation and they need help in order to be able to get out of it? Have we gotten to that point yet where we've all woken up and seen drug addiction as a problem that society needs to solve? Or are we being selective in picking out which groups of people under which drugs can we help? Can we do that? Are we doing that? Are we being real about it? I mean, this is stuff that's been going on for decades. And because now it's invading into a larger segment of the population that predominantly hits one specific demographic, that we're now going to pay attention to it, that we're now scrambling to spend a lot of time and money to build an infrastructure and to develop treatment programs to be able to deal with the societal effects of addiction and depression. For some people, it's a socioeconomic situation. Oh, there's now programs for that if you're a heroin addict, but not if you're a crack cocaine addict, not to this degree and not to this sense of urgency. I feel bad for anybody who's an addict to drugs. I thankfully do not know anybody, to my knowledge, who's addicted to drugs and suffering from it. Whether it's crack, heroin, whatever. Because I could not watch any of my friends go through that and just turn a blind eye to it. But we're doing this now as a society, and now we're scrambling to deal with the heroin addiction, when these same methods were asked to be proposed 15 to 20 years ago, the answer was no. No money would be available for that. If you had to get money from it, it's going to have to go from a nonprofit scrambling for money to be able to help people. Now, you see this? Republican governor announcing $50 million in new funding over 5 years. $10 million a year. $10 million a year to help curtail this drug problem, but not through arrests and not through just cracking down on people and blaming the addicts. No, we're going to do prevention and recovery efforts as well as enforcement efforts. The hypocrisy is I don't know. Today was just enough for me to deal with hypocrisy. It's just, no. Conversation time is over. Treat them all the same, one way or the other. And I really hope that people wake up and see that this heroin addiction issue is not just a heroin addiction issue. It's an addiction issue that all people, regardless of socioeconomic status, or just so happen to be that you were born with a larger concentration of melanin in your skin, this needs to be dealt with on an even platform across the board. Because the solutions that should have been had 20 years ago would have already been in place to stop this, so that somebody else's son or daughter did not have to die from a heroin overdose, or didn't have to ruin their lives and the lives of their family and friends because they were addicted to heroin. If we cared when the problem affected a few people, we would have prevented it from affecting many people. Live with it.